Right now, you are warm. You probably haven't thought about it once today. Somewhere on a wall in your home, there's a little dial, and the second the air dips below a number you picked, a machine quietly kicks on and fixes the problem before your body even notices. You go from a heated house to a heated car to a heated building, and honestly, the coldest moment of your whole day is the 10 seconds it takes to walk between them. Winter, for you, is an inconvenience. Scraping frost off a windshield, grabbing a heavier coat, grumbling that it's dark by 5. Now strip all of that away. No furnace, no walls that really stop the wind. No store with food trucked in from a warmer part of the planet. Picture yourself standing on a frozen plain in Ice Age Europe, the temperature far below anything your bare body can survive, and a night ahead of you 16 hours long. Here's the strange part. Your ancestors didn't just endure that. They walked straight into it on purpose. Because on paper, you are a terrible candidate for winter. The human body is a tropical machine. We evolved in the warm stretches of Africa, and left alone in freezing air, an unprotected human loses fast. Hypothermia can set in within hours. Your fingers stop working. Your thinking slows to sludge. Drop your core temperature past a certain line and everything simply switches off. No claws, no fur, no fat layer worth mentioning. By any fair measure, we are one of the worst designed large animals on Earth for a real winter. And yet, humans didn't just survive the cold. They pushed north into it, into Ice Age Europe, into Siberia, into places where winter kills a naked body in an afternoon. So how? How does the tropical animal end up owning the frozen half of the planet? It isn't one clever trick. It's a stack of inventions, layered one on top of the next, each one answering a threat that would otherwise have finished the job. Winter never came at your ancestors from a single direction. It came at them from 4 at once. The cold, the shelter problem, the hunger, and the long dark. Beat one, and the others were still waiting. So let's take them in order. Hardest first. Start with the cold itself. The first answer is fire. And fire is genuinely enormous. It's heat you can carry into a place that has none. Light in the dark, a way to cook, a thing to gather around. For a tropical animal walking into a frozen world, fire is the foot in the door. But fire has a flaw that's easy to miss from a heated living room. It only warms the side of you pointed at it. Turn around and your back goes cold. And the instant you step away from it, to hunt, to haul more wood, to do literally anything, the cold rushes straight back in. Fire doesn't travel with you. It stays where it is and you don't get to. So fire alone was never going to be enough. What a body in a real winter needs is warmth wrapped around it, everywhere, all the time. Heat that moves when you move. And that points at what might be the single most important piece of winter technology our species ever built. Clothing. But not the version you're picturing. For a long time, the assumption was simple. It's cold, so you throw a hide over your shoulders and you're done. And for a while, that's exactly what people did. The problem is, a draped skin leaks everywhere. Wind slips in at the sides. Your arms hang out in the open. It slides off the moment you move. A pelt over your back beats nothing. But in a genuine winter, beats nothing still gets you killed. The real leap was learning to cut hides into pieces and stitch them back into the shape of a human being. Fitted sleeves. Closed seams. A garment that trapped a pocket of warm air right against your skin and held it there no matter how much you moved. That's the whole gap between a blanket and a coat. And to pull that off, you need one specific, unreasonably difficult object. A needle with an eye. A tiny hole for the thread. Think about actually making one. You take a sliver of bone, grind it to a fine point, then bore a hole through it, small enough to be delicate but strong enough not to snap. Archaeologists have found eyed bone needles more than 40,000 years old. The earliest ones from Siberia, with the oldest bone needle of all, pulled from Denisova Cave, reaching back something like 50,000 years. These are not lucky accidents. They're precise, deliberate tools, made by people who knew exactly what they were for. The thread came from the animal, too. Sinew, the tough fiber connecting muscle to bone, pulled free, dried, and used to bind hides into something that would actually hold. Turn the fur inward against the skin, and suddenly a human can stand in air cold enough to kill and stay alive inside a private bubble of warmth they carry with them. Take away the needle and the thread, and there is no human population surviving a Siberian Ice Age winter. None. So now you're warm, and you can move. But the light is going, the temperature is still dropping, and here comes a second problem no coat can fix. You need somewhere to make it through the night. The obvious answer is a cave. And yes, caves mattered. A deep one holds steady temperature, blocks the wind, keeps snow off your head. But nobody mentions the catch with caves, so let me. There are 3 problems, and they stack. First, they're rare. A dry, defensible cave in a location that actually makes sense is not something the landscape hands you on demand. Second, if you do find a good one, odds are something else already wants it. Another group, or something with teeth. And third, most of the time you simply won't have one, which means if you need shelter, you have to build it yourself. And this is where it gets genuinely astonishing. At a site called Mezherik in modern-day Ukraine, archaeologists found the remains of dwellings put up around 18,000 years ago, in a landscape with almost no timber and almost no stone. So the people there built with the one material they had in massive supply, the bones of mammoths. They stacked and interlocked the remains of dozens of animals into round, dome-shaped huts. Hundreds of bones in a single dwelling, jawbones layered like roof shingles, huge tusks arched over the doorways. These weren't thrown together lean-tos. They were engineered structures, planned and hauled and fitted together to hold firm through a merciless winter. And then every bit of effort went into trapping the heat inside, because bone doesn't fit together neatly. It leaves gaps, and every gap is an open door for the wind. So people sealed them. They stretched hides across the inner walls and pinned them over the openings. They cut blocks of turf and stacked them against the outside. Some groups packed snow up against the walls. And that last one sounds insane until you learn how it works. Which brings me to the part of this story that flips the whole thing on its head. Everything so far has treated the cold as the enemy, the thing to keep out, block, burn away. But somewhere along the line, people figured out something stranger and much smarter. They started using the cold as a tool. Take that snow packed against the shelter wall. Snow is full of trapped air, and trapped air is a fantastic insulator. A thick layer of it doesn't let the winter in, it holds your heat in. The stuff falling out of the sky to kill you becomes a blanket for the house. Now go further. The frozen ground itself is a freezer. Dig a pit down into the frozen earth, pack it with meat from a good kill, and the cold keeps it edible far longer than it had any right to last. Sit with that for a second. The exact same force trying to starve a group all winter is now the thing preserving the food that carries them through it. The season built to end you, quietly working for you instead. That is a genuinely different way of seeing the world. Not fighting the cold, but recruiting it. And it's a big part of how the tropical animal learned to live where it had no business living. Which lands us on the third threat, and arguably the deadliest: hunger. Here's the piece modern life has erased completely. In winter, the land stops making food. Plants die back. Berries are gone. Roots are locked in frozen soil. Animals have moved on, or gone into hiding, or gotten thin and desperate themselves. For a hunter-gatherer, winter isn't only cold. It's the season the earth itself stops feeding you. So survival turns into arithmetic. You have to gather enough in the warm months to carry an entire group through months when nearly nothing new comes in. And ancient people got very good at it. They dried meat, sliced thin, left in sun or low smoke until the moisture was gone, because without moisture it can't rot, and the smoke added a second layer of protection on top. A rack of drying meat in autumn was, in plain terms, a group's insurance policy against starving in February. And the single most valuable thing wasn't lean meat at all. It was fat, the densest energy source available, worth more than almost anything when your body is burning fuel just to stay warm. They rendered it down into something stable and storable, and combined it with dried meat into dense, portable rations that packed a huge number of calories into a small form. Now, you'd think a story this good would just be a clean winning streak. It isn't, and it's important to be honest about that, because every single winter was a test, and a great many people failed it. Survival was never guaranteed. The mammoth-bone hut didn't get raised by a group that ran out of daylight. The meat rack didn't get filled by a group that misjudged the autumn. A bad year, a hard freeze early, a kill that didn't come. And the arithmetic came up short, and people died. These weren't rare tragedies. They were the constant background pressure the whole system existed to push against. But here's why that matters instead of undercutting everything. The failures are exactly what make the inventions real. The needle, the fitted coat, the sealed shelter, the buried store of fat. None of it is a nice to have. Every piece was carved out against the very live possibility of not making it to spring. The rule is proven by how often it nearly broke. Survival wasn't a fact about our species. It was earned, one winter at a time, through preparation and skill and sheer stubbornness, by people who knew precisely what losing looked like. Which leaves the fourth threat, and it's the one people almost never think of, because it doesn't come for the body. It comes for the mind. The darkness. The further north you go, the more winter steals the light. You might get a handful of usable daylight hours and then 15, 16 hours of cold, black night with nothing to do but wait it out. You can't travel. You can't hunt in the dark. You're shut in a small space with the same few people, night after night after night. And that kind of confinement can wear a person down in a way cold and hunger never quite manage. Except ancient people didn't just endure those hours. They filled them. This was the time for every job that didn't need daylight. Sitting by the fire, repairing tools, shaping new spear points, mending clothing, twisting plant fiber into cord, carving. The long night wasn't dead time. It was workshop time, when a group got everything ready for the moment the weather finally broke. And it was more than work. Around that winter fire, in the dark, is where people talked. Where elders handed down everything they knew. Where the same stories got told again and again, carrying a group's memory across generations. In 2014, the researcher Polly Wiesner published a study of conversation among the Jew/Huansi of the Kalahari and found that after dark, the talk shifted, hard. More than 80% of it turning to story, song, and imagination, away from the practical matters and gossip that filled the daytime. Firelight changed what people were willing to share. A big share of what we call human culture, the myths, the songs, the shared knowledge, was forged in exactly these conditions. People pressed together against the dark, keeping each other warm, keeping each other sane, keeping each other human until the light came back. So step back and look at the whole thing at once, because the same pattern is underneath all four answers. The cold pushed people to invent fitted, sewn clothing. The shelter problem pushed them to invent real architecture, out of mammoth bone when there was nothing else. The hunger pushed them to invent storage, and to turn the cold itself into a freezer working on their side. And the long, dark nights turned into the workshop and the classroom where a huge part of human culture was actually born. Winter didn't just fail to wipe us out. Winter shaped us. Nearly every technology that let our species spill into every climate on the planet was forged in the fight to survive the cold. The harshest season on Earth made us far more capable than we had any right to be. And now, look at you. You turn a dial and the room warms up. You open a door in December and there's food grown on the other side of the world. You complain the sun sets too early from inside a house your ancestors couldn't have dreamed of, having never once felt the specific dread of watching the first snowfall and doing the math on whether you stored enough to see spring. You don't survive winter anymore. You barely notice it. And that's not because winter got any softer. It's because 100,000 years of people, freezing, starving, huddled together in the dark, slowly figured out how to beat it, one invention at a time, so that you would never have to.